podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
O'Callaghan, Cascarino, and Jimmy Carter. Well, it was a gift when it came, and Carter, who lists strangers amongst his former clubs, happy to take it. Carter's round the back. Well, Rangers with problems. Cascarino, 2-0.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to one of my favourite shows that we do. It's the History Podcast, History Looking Back. And with me is my regular co-host on these shows. Look forward to seeing Neil every time. Neil Fissler. How are you doing, Neil?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all. Interesting month coming up.
Very international break at the moment, listeners, which seems to come around very quickly. There's another one, I think, next month. So, yeah, we're in the middle of this kind of break, just on the back of that excellent win at home to West Brom. Neil, it's going to be an interesting trip to Queen's Park Rangers on Saturday, who are also going quite well at the moment, in fairness to QPR. So it's going to be a bit of a showdown at Loftus Road, isn't it?
Yeah, never a place I liked going to.
No.
You can never sit down, especially in that upper tier, can you? It must be the only ground in the country that have got, where you have to put your knees under the seats in front of you.
Very cramped place, tight in flats and houses all around. It reminds me of the old Brentford ground, but without some of the charm, I think, if you want to call it that Karen. It all seems very, very dense around there, and it's easy enough to get there on the central line, but it always seems like a bit of a lug over there. I don't know. Maybe I just don't like the club or the ground particularly. I think that might be it. Big fixture coming up Saturday, dear listeners, but we're going to be looking back today. Nostalgia rules on this show, Neil. We're going to be looking backwards to the classic 1989, 88-89 season, Mill's first and one of only two ever divisions in the top flight, seasons in the top flight. I'm going to be looking at a win. I'll try and pick out wins when we do these retrospective shows, listeners. So, Neil, I've picked out a QPR 1, Millwall 2 win from February the 4th, 1989, in front of 10,881 at Loftus Road. Goals for Jimmy Carter, Tony Cascarino, 46 minutes and 75 minutes respectively, and a late consolation for Mark Falco, who would go on and play for Millwall, of course, later in his career towards the very end. A penalty just to give us that edge of the seat quality that we seem to love so much. But it finished 2-1 to the Lions. A classic season, Neil. I mean, it's been covered many, many times over, but I find that every time I look at the 88-89 season, I kind of smile because it was just wonderful, wonderful times, wasn't it?
Mate, halcyon days, I believe
that's the phrase.
Precious. Yeah,
absolutely.
Mate, but I know we aspire to play in the Premier League, but for those of us that saw games in that 89 or 88-89 season, you never kind of forget them, do you? That you can have this rather nostalgic smile on your face. I think somebody once said, if you can remember the 90s, you weren't there. But
we were there.
But it's one of those times where we want to be there and you want to remember them because they don't come around that often as a Millwall fan. In fact, 2 seasons out of 140 and a little bit less than that because we only came into the league after World War One.
Wasn't it? But what a season it was. We made our mark, Neil, that's for sure. I mean, this win that we're going to be talking about shortly, listeners, would leave us with the 3 points in 6th position in Division 1. You can't really relate to it now. We were 6th from the top of the league. And we would go even higher later before the wheels came off the season, but we would sit in 3rd. And be contenders to win the Football League Championship. It's I never imagined I would see such things. We came close before. I think the squad just ran out of legs and depth and resources. But this was still, whilst that dream, whatever you want to call it, that it was beyond my dreams. was still on. A 2-1 win for the Lions at Loftus Road. I found a match report. There is YouTube footage. It's well worth a look. It's only about 30 seconds long, Neil. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it was from the club-produced video cassette, the VHS cassette, which was all the goals of 1988-89. I used to have it.
Yeah, but that was the rage, wasn't it? Up until a few seasons ago,
Yeah.
when we got the end of season video.
Yeah, professionally produced with graphics and I can't remember who did the voiceover, but
And him probably, wasn't it? Was it Dean?
probably was Dino. Yeah, back then, and it had all the goals from the club season. This one, I think someone's put it onto YouTube. It's only the 2 goals from Carter and from Cascarino. Scuffled goals both, but you know they all count if they go in. First one was a nice cross in from the left side. I missed who put the cross in, but that was put away by Jimmy Carter at the far post. And then the second one was an 80s scuffle. I mean, Wimbledon kind of trademarked those goals, Neil, didn't they? But we weren't far behind them in terms of lobbing the ball into the box and then poked home from close range by Tony Cascarino. They'll count.
Yeah, but that was the Charles Hughes.
Yeah, Route 1.
Wasn't it? Pumped the ball into the box and whilst the rest of Europe was knocking it around tippy tap style. Yeah, but not in England. And
not in England, mate. No, old school.
But it worked. Games were entertaining. So, I don't know.
Well, I think I liked Jackie Charlton's description, who took obviously the Republic of Ireland as far as that country's ever been in European and World Cup terms as well with that style of football. He always described it as playing your football in the last third of the opposition's half. You know, that's where the footballing side of it, if you want, came out. And I think we would probably put similar marks on ours. We were better than just us Route 1 side. We had some quality players. I mean, this 11 is unusual in that Teddy Sheringham wasn't playing. But we had some really quality players in that side, Neil, when you look at it. This wasn't just, I know I've just called it a scuff shot, but they count. But we had some decent players. And I include Tony Cascarino in that. It was often, I think, slightly marked down compared with his compatriot Teddy Sheringham. But good goal scorer for us, wasn't he, Tony Cascarino? A classic duo up front.
Mate, I think when you talk about combinations up front, and we've done it a lot of times.
Yeah.
In the whole of Millwall history, I don't think everybody will argue, but I don't think you'll find a better duo than Cass and Teddy Sheringham.
In terms of impact, I mean, other strikers have scored more, of course.
Yeah.
And you can
duo and as a combination and as people that could play off each other and understood each other.
And as icons, Neil. I mean, sometimes it goes beyond the stats, doesn't it? It goes beyond into something intangible. It's Teddy and Cass up front. This is something that any Millwall fan, even if they never saw them play, will understand. It means something. And funny enough, in this game, just as I'm praising that combination, Teddy had been dropped in favour of Dean Horrocks for this particular win, listeners. I'm going to read out the Sunday Express match report. It isn't terribly long, so this is by John Morgan of the Sunday Express, 4th of Feb 1989. Millwall manager John Docherty pulled off a masterstroke to win this uncompromising and blood-tingling thriller, dropping star scorer Teddy Sheringham for reserve striker Dean Horrocks. And after second-half goals by Jimmy Carter and Tony Cascarino ended Millwall's run of 3 defeats in a row, Docherty said, "There is no mystery. I picked a team to win a game and we won it. It's as simple as that." Horrocks might make an early return for Sheringham, a bit difficult because he led Millwall's attack exceptionally well. Famous last words there, because Sheringham would, of course, come back to greater glories. But the outstanding performance was the 23-year-old Jimmy Carter, snapped up by Docherty from QPR 2 years ago for £15,000. Numbers back then look so small compared with nowadays, don't they? He dazzled on either wing and gave Millwall the decisive edge. A few names here for listeners. Millwall created the first clear-cut chance in the 11th minute when Jimmy Carter twice beat Brian Law. We'll come back to Brian Law because I've picked him out of Neil's book just to mention him. I don't think we've mentioned him before. Beat Brian Law on the ground and then beat David Seaman, one of the great England goalkeepers, I think it's fair to say, not the greatest, but one of the great ones. In the air with a cross, the QPR goalkeeper could only palm on to Cascarino. The era international should have scored, but somehow Alan McDonald stretched himself to get a foot in first. It goes on, despite the dynamism of Andy Gray up front and the cool control of Nigel Spackman, listeners, at the back for QPR. We didn't have much cool control when he managed us, but Millwall looked the better organised side, says the Sunday Express. Cascarino should have shot after passing 3 defenders, but he didn't. And minutes later, he allowed goalkeeper Seaman to take the ball off of him. But to atone, that's a good word, to atone for those lapses, he hit a centre that beat everyone. It was a Cascarino cross to leave Carter with a simple chance in the first minute of the second half. Carter then returned the compliment on the 65th minute, although Cascarino needed 2 chances, netting after former Israeli international David Pisanti, name I hadn't seen before. He made a hash of his attempted clearance. Rangers got a goal back 11 minutes from time when Les Briley was adjudged to have handled a Wayne Faraday centre, Mark Falco, smashing home the penalty. And that win, as I've just said, would leave us in 6th position. Some good names in that report there, Neil.
Yeah, funnily enough, I just pulled up a cutting.
Yeah.
Written by a good friend of mine, Nigel Clark, from the morning of that game.
Okay.
It was a bit of a mystery. I think Sheringham wasn't due to be dropped, not according to this. Apparently, Nigel Clark writes it will cost Millwall £1 million. £1 million to keep their strike force, Tony Cascarino and Teddy Sheringham together.
Right.
That's the value on the front pair who face QPR this afternoon, looking to end the Lions' run of 3 defeats in a row.
Wow. Okay.
Top clubs are homing in on soccer's golden pair. You've got to love journalism, haven't you?
Journalese, that's called, isn't it?
Yeah. And Millwall are facing a 7-figure fee and the fight to keep them at the Den.
Mm.
The wage structure at the club is built on a bonus system. This will, yeah, and that Millwall hope will tempt Sheringham to follow Cascarino and sign a long-term contract. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. The
Okay.
are on a £400 bonus for every away victory and £200 for every home win.
Decent money.
And bonus on attendance of crowds of over 8,000 for 23,000 gates for the home tie against Liverpool last Sunday earned the pair £600 each.
Oh, it's probably decent. I mean, I'm laughing because obviously by the side of modern earnings, that's these modern earnings come from somewhere. It comes from the negotiations of that time. So, and yeah, they're right. Could we played Liverpool the FA Cup game 23,000. Also, that was on live. I think match of the day game. It was a Sunday game, if memory serves. We got well beat in truth, 2-0 by a very very good Liverpool side that season.
What also gets me, that plus wages of around £80,000, that's a year.
Yeah.
Not and signing on fees equals figures that match the best players in the league.
It's good money. I mean, I think it's
near Erling Haaland now, are we?
No. By the side of modern day figures, it does become quite amusing. I must say. Yeah, there we are. So whether that was Teddy being unsettled, as the another journalese word for you there, Neil, unsettled striker. They brought in Dean Horrocks, and it worked out well for Millwall this particular day. I'm just going to have a quick look and see if Horrocks kept his place. He looked like he went back to the bench after that. I think it was back to the Cascarino and Sheringham. Yeah, it was straight away next game, so he couldn't have been unsettled for long. Horrocks might have got unsettled again at the end of the season. Looks like he might have been injured in a few games towards the end of the season. But as we've said, Cascarino and Sheringham, you really can't see past that duo. And if they're being that highly sought after as they would have been at that point, then you could understand that the club's desperation to keep them. I mean, Cascarino would actually leave us. I think it would be the following season. I think he moved on to Aston Villa, was it? Or was it Chelsea he moved on to? I can't remember now. But
Aston.
Aston Villa. Teddy would stick around though, Neil, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
through the relegation season and back into Division 2, 1, whatever it was called.
Yeah, I think he left at the end of that season, didn't he?
After a record goal scoring season. So, you know, many silly things get said when Teddy Sheringham's name gets mentioned. He's one of the great, one of the great strikers, one of the great, most iconic duos, and he did stick around when he didn't. Many a striker would have left us and scored goals for us in an effort to get us back to the top flight.
I don't really think it's Teddy Sheringham's fault that he gets so much stick. It was that standing joke. Whenever he went somewhere, it was always his lifetime's ambition.
He did go to some good clubs, kids, if you're listening.
Yeah, well, he did. He went to Manchester United. It was a lifelong dream to sign for them. Then it was a lifelong dream to sign for the Vermin.
Spurs, yeah, that's right. West Ham, he went there. Towards the end of his career, I mean, he would go on to Forest when he did leave us in '91, of course, and then on to Tottenham, where he was highly successful. And then ultimately, you can't get any more successful than winning the European Cup, the treble, wasn't it? It was
but he scored in the final, didn't?
That's right. So that would be my lifelong dream if I was a footballer, wouldn't it? You, Neil, just to come away with a European Cup winners' medal. So that was the level of player that he was.
But of some of the girlfriends that he had as well. But I think he's become a Pans-Ho villain, hasn't he? Whenever he turns up, you seem to hear went to West Ham and now he's up. But I think he takes it in good heart.
I think he must have a laugh. I mean, he's had a very successful career, lived a great life. In fact, just going on and going back to this, that was the Sunday Express report. Then this is the Monday Daily Express report by Barry Flatman. Upset Teddy wants talks, says Barry Flatman. Teddy Sheringham will this morning demand to know why he's been made the Millwall scapegoat. Sheringham, enviously eyed by Glasgow Giants, Rangers and Celtic earlier this season, is furious at being axed after scoring 12 goals in Millwall Surprise Day. It does seem a bit... if he was axed, I thought he might have been carrying a knock or something, but he's still holding out for a new 3-year contract, similar to the one signed by strike partner Tony Cascarino, awaiting him at the Den. So he doesn't... But Sheringham says he doesn't want to be rushed.
Yeah, but the 80s was a strange time in football, wasn't it? Yeah, we still had the drinking culture.
You did.
You were just on the edge of players being paid very, very good money compared to what they had been paid.
Well, Sky TV would be coming. This is '89. Sky TV would be coming in just 3 years' time, 1992, the Premier League, and that's when the bubble started to expand. It still hasn't really stopped expanding ever since. So it was the brink at this point. I love this. You're a student of honest managerial comment, post-match press conferences, Neil. This is from John Doherty, asked about the Sheringham situation. He revealed, the doc says, yes, I've been thinking about leaving him out of the team for a couple of weeks now. The boy has not been playing up to his usual high standards. That's a quote, isn't it?
I don't know what he would make sure of Ivanovic and Coburn then.
If Teddy's not good enough, he's been weighing it up for a few weeks now. Well, there we are. That's Millwall winning at Loftus Road. Let's hope for let's run through the team actually before we move along. The team: Brian Hall in goal, back line, David Thompson. I wanted to come back to David Thompson. I picked out his bio from Neil's book, the A to Z of Millwall players. Listeners, do pick one up. I saw it being re-advertised online the other day. It's invaluable, especially if you want to do a podcast looking back into the past. It's invaluable.
Handy, isn't it?
Very handy. It makes you sound like you know what you're talking about, listeners. Backline: Dave Thompson, Steve Wood, Alan McCleary and Dawes. Midfield: Jimmy Carter, we've mentioned, Terry Hurlock, Les Briley, more iconic names, Kevin O'Callaghan, And up front on this occasion, Dean Horrocks and Tony Cascarino. Unused subs. Can you imagine going through a whole game now, listeners, without using your substitutes? But they were Sean Sparham, there's a name from the past now, Sean Sparham, and Paul Stevenson, who would score in the famous game at Anfield. So I've just picked a few out there. The Dave Thompson, who's a very tall, lanky centre half. Well, he must have been playing on the right side in this game, I think, with Wood and McCleary in the centre, I would think. Dave Thompson, 111 games for us, Neil, 7 goals. Born in Ashington, a very famous place, birthplace of the Charlton brothers, Bobby and Jackie. His career took in Bristol City, Brentford, Blackpool, Millwall, Cambridge, and Cambridge City towards the end of it. And we had a scout in the northwest who spotted giant central defender. He was very tall, very thin, very tall. It always seemed to me to be. Who came from the coal mining community. This was when we had a coal mining industry kid in Ashington. He broke into the first team during the 1988 Division 2 title-winning campaign, and in the 2 First Division campaigns, partnering both Steve Wood and Alan McCleary. However, when Mick McCarthy took the reins as manager, he did not rate Tomo and swapped in for Bristol City's Andy May. It's hard world. He finished his Football League career with 2 seasons at Cambridge, where he became a Royal Mail postman. You go from playing in the top flight of English football and finish your days like others. Neil Webb, I think Forest also became a Royal Mail postman. That's what happened with Dave Thompson. He always looked a bit unreliable to me, Dave Thompson, Neil. He always seemed to have a mistake in him, as the modern day phrase would have it. So I can kind of get why McCarthy might have been not so convinced about him. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, McCarthy was also making wholesale changes at the time.
At that time.
Shame, really, because
he's committed. He certainly cared, and
he served us for 100 and odd games.
87 to 92 played at centre half, 7 goals. So he was a bit like a less physical Jake Cooper. I think that would be. I think Jake has more physicality about him. He's a bigger bloke, stronger bloke. I think Thompson just never seemed to quite have that extra level to his game. Might be being harsh there. Do let me know, listeners. Incidentally, while we're on the subject, Neil, you've made a great suggestion, and I'm very happy to take it up. Do email us or voicemail us if you would like to, with your thoughts and memories of games, perhaps like this one here at QPR, a 2-1 win at QPR, or thoughts and memories if you have any of Dave Thompson, whether you liked him or didn't like him, and for what reasons you might have liked him or disliked him. If you want to send us your voicemails, like we do with the post-match, memories and suggestions and thoughts and musings, all welcome. I think that'd be a really nice addition to the show, Neil, don't you?
Yeah, I've pinched it like all the best ideas. I was listening to We Are Plays on Patreon, and they do listeners' stories, and I thought, that would be absolutely perfect for Achtung. So if you want to leave us a voicemail, or if you want to send Nick an email, or
WhatsApp me if you got my number. We can exchange numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything. Did you live next door to a Millwall player?
That's a good one. Yeah.
Or did you ever work alongside a former Millwall player, or absolutely anything? Let's just get a bit of engagement in.
Nice one.
What we'll do is I think every time we do one of these, we'll pick out 2 or 3 and we'll discuss them. And but you never know. Yeah, if we get snowed under, we might even have to do a special.
I am, incidentally, listeners, we're going up. This is a tangent show, and I'm sure this is why you tune into us. We don't, we follow our own rules here. I get so many voicemails, post-match voicemails. I'm going to be doing like 2-hour-long episodes soon. So I'm going to have to start to cut maybe a separate edition. I don't know, maybe 2 editions. But anyway, I'm going to have to think about the voicemails because the last show went on for 1.5 hours. Well, that's actually a long listen for a podcast. I'm either going to have to edit some, or we're going to have to do it just as a separate show. I don't like to not use anything that comes in.
Yeah, but to be fair, Nick, Yeah, I can remember when you first started these and you had 2 or 3 people.
I had to make them up, didn't I?
Yeah. And now you're getting too many. It just shows the level of engagement that.
Yeah, it's really nice. I do like it, and don't stop sending me them. I've just got to think a little bit more seriously about how we edit them. Maybe I might, an hour show probably is about maximum in all truth. A touch over perhaps, but we don't want to go on to an hour and a half, so I'm going to have to think about that. But anyway, keep them flowing. And as Neil has said, perhaps you've met a player in an unusual place. In which case, do tell us about it. We'd love to hear.
But even if you don't want to send in a voice note, just send an email.
Email them. Yeah. Email, absolutely. So yeah, that was Dave Thompson. I'm sure we've mentioned Dean Horrocks before. Now he played in this game. I just want to mention him again because obviously rest in peace, Dean Horrocks. He was played for us in 2 spells in the early 80s through some very tough days, and then again late 80s through much better days. 97 games for us, Neil. 25 goals, striker obviously. A career taking in Millwall, Gillingham, Reading, Cardiff, then back to Millwall. He never really got a chance with the Cascarino and Sheringham duo up front in his second time, and he moved on to Bristol, where he was sadly passed away following a car crash. I'm sure I've mentioned Dean Horrocks on these shows before, but
yeah, we have mentioned Dean Horrocks.
I'll just mention him again now.
Yeah, well, on a couple of occasions, tragic, absolutely tragic. I think he died just after he moved there. Died in a car crash. I think on his way home from a game.
Yeah.
Memory serves me right, but
yeah,
it was a strange one, Nick. I look at teams now, even from the 80s, and you look at the sheer number of players that are no longer with us, and it brings back memories, and you think, oh, where's the time gone? And someone like Dean Horrocks should have still been alive now.
Should be. I mean, just looking at his date of birth, he's born 1961. He's born a year after me, October 1960. So he's 21st November 1960. So he's 1 year younger than me would have been. So that's 64. He should be 64 years old by all any whatever justice you want to put into this life. But yeah, I just want to mention Dean because he was mentioned in this, to be have a player of the standing of Teddy Sheringham to replace him. I think. Is a nice tribute, if that can be said for Dean Horrocks there. So there we are. One other name playing for QPR, Brian Law, Neil, centre half, will play for Millwall. Brian Law was our centre half in the late 1990s, 53 games for us, 4 goals, playing for Queen's Park Rangers in this particular fixture. Career that took in QPR, Wolves, Millwall and Brentford. After the game, he suffered a serious knee injury and was forced to retire. And he went to live in Australia, working for various charities that he'd set up in Aussie. So, just what I've mentioned, Brian Law. I don't think we've mentioned him at all.
Mate, Brian Law's a name that you easily forget. Actually played for Millwall. Luckily, I had a bit of knowledge, and I saw his name in there, and I picked out Law, Spackman, and Falco, either season signing by Rioch. So he's one of those players that you can quite easily forget. Actually,
goes out of your
mind. I know that people say, "Oh God, I completely forgot that so and so played for us." But Brian Law is actually one of those players that you. Yeah, but I think he had a couple of seasons with us.
Yeah, 97 to 99, 53 games. So that would have been the third tier. Might have been called Division 2, then League 1 now. Born in Merthyr Tydfil in Wales, Welsh player, and now living in Australia when the version of Neil's book that I've got was published. There we are. There's a couple of little tidbits for you, Neil, which I've picked out. This is one of the things with doing shows like this, listeners, especially if you have a mind, I think a little bit like Neil's and certainly mine, is you find yourself branching off into different directions. You start out with a purpose, and then one thing connects in your head, and you see a name, and you think, I'm going to look that one up. And I've picked out 2 little tidbits as a result of looking at things I should have been looking at the main point of what I was researching. And I found an article, or a paragraph, I should call it, in the Scotsman, dated 24th of February 1989, so around the time of the QPR fixture, just to show that any younger listeners that there is nothing new under the sun. This is an apology, Neil, from the Scotsman, no less, the major newspaper up on the other side of the border in Scotland. Millwall magazine is not racist. They're having to say that they're apologising to the Lion Roars. Specifically on October the 12th, 1988, we published an article under the heading "The Red Card for the Racists," which referred to a Millwall football fanzine, inverted commas, referred to a Millwall football fanzine as being openly racist. We have been asked to point out, and we accept, that the alternative Millwall supporters magazine, The Lion Roars, has been careful to avoid racist comment. The magazine has asked us to state that its writers all detest racial prejudice. Quite an achievement to get an apology for so. I mean, it's outrageously wrong. So, but nevertheless, it's not easy to get an apology from a major newspaper, Neil. So, well done, the Lion Roars, TLR of the day.
It was either that or be sued, and I bet, but I guarantee you that little nib wasn't half as big as the headline.
No. I can guarantee.
Story.
It shows you that the stereotype that Millwall are a certain type of club existed then. I mean, nothing new here, Neil, is there? But I just thought that caught my eye as I was looking through the QPR stuff, and that this option popped up on the website. So, well done, Lion. It was a great fanzine back in its day. In my own way, Neil, I try and capture something of the Lion Wars. Don't know what when I do these shows, which was always a magazine that kind of covered the whole, what you might call the whole range of being a Millwall fan. I always enjoyed the Lion Roars, and if not imitate it, I'm trying to capture something of it when I do these shows. Hopefully, I get there. I don't know, but that's
that
my
was potential match day, wasn't it? Where you'd buy the programme,
yeah,
and you'd actually buy a copy of the Lion Roars and anything else that was there, and
it was the heyday of the football fanzine, wasn't it? I mean, some still exist out there. Very, very hard work to produce a fanzine on a regular basis. And I always enjoyed the Lion Roars. I always thought it was the best of the Millwall fanzines. Over and above, no one likes us, in all truth.
What I would like, Nick, is I'd actually love to get somebody that wrote for the Lion Roars back then onto a podcast, and
that's a good idea.
Do a history of Millwall podcasts.
I wonder if I could get hold of Paul Casella. I used to have his email, but whether he's still on the same email. I shall give that a try. If any listeners know Paul, and if he'd be willing to give me a shout, my email is always on the show notes. It'd be great, wouldn't it? Talk to Paul.
Or anybody that was connected. And no, Mickey Simpson, you won't pinch that idea.
One other before we move along, because Neil's picked out a great choice of fixture, but I'm going to give you one other, perhaps the flimsiest linkage I've ever seen in my life. Neil, I've got a question for you. I've got a question for the listeners. What links the Princess of Wales, Lady Diana Spencer, as was? What links Cliff Richard, the Princess of Wales, and Millwall Football Club?
It certainly isn't a tunnel in Paris.
No, it isn't. It's a health-giving secret which is called royal jelly. This whole article actually puts in the same sentence the Princess of Wales, Cliff Richard, and Millwall Football Club. Apparently, in the 80s, this is dated 89. This is me coming across it. Very much the classic filler article. You ever wrote anything like this, Neil, where you've got to produce words to fill a blank space in a newspaper? This relates to royal jelly, which is like a honey type product. The queen bee of business, God almighty, they're calling the woman who owns it. Customers include for this royal jelly substance the Duke of Edinburgh, the Princess of Wales, the Duchess of York, Cliff Richard, and Linford Christie. There's a few names there. Football players from 8 football clubs also use her royal jelly, which is said to revive the body and bring relief to a whole series of ills, including Norwich, and now second in the league. Norwich are second in the league, and Millwall, who is claimed, refused to play without it. We refuse to play without our royal jelly, Neil. There we are. That's from the Portsmouth Evening News. They must have been struggling for space that day.
That has PR agency sending out a press release written all over it, which reminds me, I actually had one from a brewery last week
Yeah.
that not only got the name of my employer wrong, but also actually spelt the name of the player that they wanted me to write about wrong.
Clearly a big rugby fan then that produced that particular piece of paper. Oh dear, there we are. Royal Jelly. Great stuff. We're going to take a short advertising break, and then when we come back, Neil and I will be talking about the Billy Neal testimonial match from 1974.
Achtung, Millwall.
Welcome back, dear listeners. Now, there's some testimonial games at Living Legend, the Harry Cripps one being one legendary figure, but there was also another one in 1974, a rematch versus West Ham. This was in aid of long-time player and club servant beyond anyone else, I think, Billy Neal. A real Millwall figure, given his playing career and then his service off the field as much as on the field, Billy Neal. But the testimonial, which is another thing that seems to have faded from the game, isn't it? The idea of testimonial matches. I suppose players are so well paid now, but not in these times. So this was a benefit match against West Ham.
Yeah.
Against West Ham at the Den.
Yeah, something that I'd forgotten about until I read it on Hoff.
Yeah.
So I scuttled around and dug out the programme. Yeah. There it was. Everybody remembers Harry Cripps' testimonial against West Ham for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It's an iconic game. It's a legendary game.
Yeah.
But this one just goes on.
No, it seems I'd forgotten about it. It's not until you sent me you mentioned it, and I looked online and found a scan. I think someone was selling the program. Must have been on I don't know, Etsy or one of those sites. And I remembered seeing the program. I must have been to it. I've forgotten it completely. December 1974, apparently. Millwall versus West Ham, the Billy Neal testimonial game. Big photo of Billy as a player on the front cover. Souvenir program, 10 pence, kids. 10 pence for a program back then. And a wonderful lineup. I mean, there's two aspects to this game, Neil. One is the actual main match, which was a fairly strong 11 by Millwall, and a fairly strong West Ham 11 in all fairness to them. But some wonderful pre-match entertainment, which was between an ex-Millwall 11 and Jimmy Hill, the TV commentator's 11. Commentated by Brian Moore, the television comedy Brian Moore. Refereed by Derek Posse. I don't think we've been impartial ref, but linesman also not impartial, Alfie Wood and Dennis Burnett on running the lines. Wonderful stuff. I mean, let's just run through the ex-Millwall 11, because some really strong names in the ex-Millwall pre-match 11, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. It was Laurie Leslie, obviously.
Yeah.
Actually played for the opposition as well. Obviously a West Ham.
Scotland goalkeeper, I think, as well. He was a Scottish international in his day. Yeah.
John Gilchrist, player who I wish I'd seen play. Harry Cripps, Dave Harper, Brian Snowden, Tommy Wilson, Joe Broadfoot, Billy Gray came.
Billy Gray, look at that.
Tempted back for that one. Well, it could actually have been Billy that signed him. Pat Terry would obviously have been a former teammate. Len Jurgens, Eamon Dunphy, Stan Ainslow, George Hazlitt, Lenny Tyler, who I think we featured on one of our.
I think I had an interview with it might have been his grandson, I think. But we certainly featured him.
Yeah,
you're right.
The very early lockdown editions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Frank Neary and the opposite, the Jimmy Hill 11. Dave Underwood, who was a Barnet goalkeeper from Melbourne.
Oh, was he? I couldn't place him. That was one I didn't know.
I think he also played for Liverpool. Might have been Scottish. George Petchy, obviously.
Petchy, yeah.
Very famous name, former.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good player, apparently, in his day.
Yeah.
As
Theo
Foley,
who came back with George Graham and.
Yes, he did.
And went with George.
Managed Charlton. He managed Charlton. He managed Millwall briefly, I think, as a kind of caretaking.
He did.
Arrangement.
Bill Dodgin, That would have been Bill Dodgin Jr.,
Coventry?
Bill Dodgin Senior. Fulham.
Fulham. Sorry.
Was also on Millwall's coaching staff
Was
when
he?
his career ended. Gordon Jago, obviously famous manager.
Yeah.
Pat Saywood had a spell with us at the start of his career, didn't he? Went on to
Seen the name. Yeah.
Northern Irish International.
Yeah.
Terry Medwin, part of
Okay.
Tottenham's double winning squad.
Was he early 60s?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Malcolm Allison, almost as known as a shagger than as anything else.
But a legendary football figure, nevertheless.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, hugely influential.
Frank Lord, who a Burnley manager, wasn't
There's the Lords. The only Lord I know of was chairman of Burnley Over. He must have been part of that. I don't know.
he? No, he wasn't.
Have to look him up.
Yeah, well, I know you mean Bob Lord.
Yeah, Bob Lord. Sorry.
Very, very good biography of him. Bill Taylor, I think, was on our coaching staff.
Right.
Along with John Collins, Eddie Bailey, Frank Sibley.
There's a name. QPR player?
Yeah, QPR, and I believe coached us, and Jimmy Hill.
Jimmy Hill, who was a major figure in football. We probably could do a show purely on Jimmy Hill, Fulham player. Probably single-handedly changed football. He was part of the abolition of the maximum or minimum wage.
Yeah,
Went
on to become manager and chairman of Coventry, wasn't it?
Coventry.
Turned their ground into more seater ground, and probably more famously, once ran the line in a first division game against Arsenal when somebody got sent off, and he was commentating or something, and became as host of Match of the Day, wasn't he?
He was host, and he presented, but he also did the pundit, which was not a thing that didn't really arise until the late 60s with the rise of the likes of Jimmy Hill, but also this idea that you had a second voice on there, that you had a presenter, which he did. I think he also did the punditry side of it as well, which was an art form that kind of developed over the 70s largely, but he was very much a very influential character. And I don't think really often gets the credit for the creation of what you might call the modern game, because the wage lifting of the wage restrictions in the early 60s really did start the modern superstar era of football, I suppose you'd call it. So yeah, huge figure. Commentator of the pre-match shows, Brian Moore, we've mentioned, quite famous TV name, and then Posse, Alf Wood and Dennis Burnett. I mean, the main match, which I understand, I found this programme has been handwritten with some of the team changes. I believe the score finished Millwall 3, West Ham 4. Billy Neal testimonial. We'll come back to Billy Neal because his playing career is quite interesting as well. The Millwall side, first half was Brian King, second half Ray Goddard, two great goalkeepers there.
Yeah, well, that was Ray Goddard's debut.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, he came to us. I think King was on the brink of moving on to Coventry, wasn't he, at that time?
Yeah, and Goddard's £10,000 signing last week, according to the London Evening News.
Tommy Sampson, there's a name from the past. I haven't heard of Tommy Sampson's names. One of the things I love about these shows now, and you mentioned it earlier, is the chance just to say old names that you've long forgotten. I've forgotten Tommy Sampson's name.
Tommy Sampson written a book, actually, that's published by Merv.
Has he? Okay. All right. Well, I'll stick a link on that for any listeners of that era. Eddie Jones, left back, came from Tottenham, if memory serves.
Yep, that's right. Fireman, not the England, Japan, and Australia rugby coach.
No, different Eddie Jones. Gordon Bolland was replaced by Mike Dillon. There's a name I haven't thought of in a long while. Mike Dillon.
Oh, that was his debut after signing on loan from Tottenham.
That's right, Spurs player. Alan Dorney, long-time Mill servant. At 5, Frank Saul also played for Spurs. I think he had a cup winners medal, I think, didn't he?
And didn't he also, was he part of the QPR team that won the League Cup as a third division team?
I think you're right. I think he had, as in the style then, he was very blonde. But he was losing his hair, so he had this kind of long, wispy blonde kind of locks, flowing locks. in the 70s style. Tommy Baldwin was replaced by Gordon Bolland at 7. Baldwin dropped down to 8, actually replacing Phil Summerhill, who dropped down the list as well. Brian Clark, number 9. Funny enough, this is the coincidence of the internet, Neil. I saw a Cardiff clip when Cardiff beat Internazionale of Milan in the European Cup Winners' Cup, and there was a goal scored, a left-sided cross put into the net by Brian Clark, who had come to Millwall and was our centre forward.
Scored the first ever Football League goal on a Sunday.
On the Sunday.
And a very, very nice guy he was. I've interviewed him a couple of times about that year.
I wanted to mention him to. I did a show with chaps talking to Gordon Hill, and Gordon Hill can talk, listeners. I really didn't get that much chance to ask a question, but one of the things that I remember with Brian Clark, because this would be 1974-5. I would have been about 13, 14 at this point. Is you felt a connection to Gordon Hill, Neil, because he was actually not much older than me at this point. He would have been about 18, 19. So you could feel, and he was also a small guy. So, I don't know, you just felt like he might be you out there if only I could kick a ball straight, Whereas Brian Clark just seemed ancient. It just seemed old. Good player, very substantial player, but he just seemed, as senior players often did, and they just seemed like they came from a different time, different place. He was ancient, whereas Gordon Hill, who was number 12 in this particular lineup, just seemed like you could feel connected to him. As I said, I didn't get a chance to make that point with Gordon Hill. I'm not sure where it would have taken us, but Brian Clark at 9, Phil Summerhill at 10, Dougie Alder at 11, and then Gordon Hill at 12. The West Ham lineup was actually not bad. We were saying off air now, it wasn't a bad lineup, really. Fairly strong for must have been a midweek fixture at a time of the season's on. You wouldn't get this now, would you? You wouldn't get like a first choice 11 turning out for a charity match mid-season, just not unless they're being paid fortunes. Mervyn Day in the first half for West Ham. I'll run through them all. Bobby Ferguson. Mervyn Day was a cup-winning goalkeeper for West Ham, and they won it in the 75. He was like the young up-and-coming goalkeeper. I think he might have even played for England, not often, but I think he got a cap if memory serves.
Leeds when they
Leeds, he went there, didn't he? They finished at Orient, I think. John McDowell at 2. Frank Lampard, father of
Fat Frank.
Frank Lampard, Frank, Coventry manager. Billy Bonds was replaced by Keith Coleman, Tommy Taylor, Kevin Locke, Alan Taylor, who would score one of the goals in the cup final, if I'm thinking of the right player.
Yep.
In 75, beat Fulham 2-0. Yeah. Graham Padden, we've mentioned already, go and play for Millwall actually later on in the 70s. Great figure in the game, Clyde Best at number 9, one of the earliest black players in English football. There really weren't many around, and Clyde Best was perhaps the most famous of a very small group at this point in the early 70s. He was at 9. Trevor Brooking,
and
major figure.
And his Portuguese tan.
The Portuguese tan. He was a big figure in the game, Trevor Brooking. Became a big noise. He played for England many times. I remember one game we beat Hungary, was it 3-1 or 4-1? He scored a famous goal where he chipped it in. He didn't seem to score many, but he did score a good goal on this particular away game. It was in Budapest, and the ball seemed to stick into the stanchion, like a looped stanchion. The ball got stuck in it. I remember that very well from 1970s.
Was actually quite a good winger, I think. I know I joke about him like in a buffet that he always turns up whenever there's a buffet available at the day and at West Ham, but he was actually a very, very good winger.
A great player, big England international, and he became a big noise at the FA after his career was over. I don't think he's doing that anymore. He must be ancient now. Keith Robson and Pat Holland. I just got to mention the referee was one Mr. K. Salmon, with Jay Craigie from Chatham on the line, and a wonderfully named Mr. R.H. Cockup from Gillingham running the line in this particular match. It would finish Mill 3, West Ham 4. Just a quick mention of Billy Neal before we move along. Scottish winger, played 187 times for the Lions, going by Wikipedia, 23 goals. mostly through the 60s, Neil, 4th Division, 3rd Division and 2nd. He was a big servant for the club, and he would go on to work behind the scenes in the offices, wouldn't he, after retiring from the game?
Yeah, I think anybody that bought an away programme from down the Den for a number of years or booked on a coach would have dealt with Billy. And for somebody who's Scottish, he's Millwall through and through, really, isn't he? He's almost one of our own.
Very much so. And as you say, he was always in, especially at Coldblow Lane. He was in the ticket office. He was, I shouldn't have said everything. Almost, he's in the Mill Hall of Fame. Apparently, I'm reading on Wikipedia. Rightly so. Great servant for the club, and big thank you. Billy's still alive, I think. So yeah, 80 years old. So big thank you to Billy Neal, and that's the Billy Neal testimonial. Yeah, good choice, mate. Good choice.
Yeah, if anybody's got any memories of that game, because obviously I was 6. And Nick,
I can't remember it. I must have been there because I remember the programme. But anyway, yeah, if you do have any memories,
you and Nick,
on or off the pitch, we'll have a listen to everything. We'll judge what we can publish, though.
Yeah, but Nick was probably that busy on sex, drugs, and rock and roll back then.
Oh yeah, in my mind, not so much in reality. And that's a good segue. We're going to take a short break, and then as a special bonus, absolutely nothing to do with Millwall whatsoever. We're going to come back after these messages with Jeux Sans Frontieres. Welcome back, dear listeners. One of the joys, Neil, of podcasting is there are no rules. It's my show. I can do and talk about whatever I want. And today we choose to talk about It's a Knockout Stroke, Jeux Sans Frontieres. Briefly, I won't overdo this, listeners. And the reason we're talking about it is in our previous history show, Neil, we mentioned Arthur Ellis, who refereed a game between Millwall and Crystal Palace in the early 50s. And that led me on to check out Wikipedia's article on It's a Knockout. And there's some fascinating facts in them, which I'll have to share with the listeners. If you're still with us, I think I might have lost a few at that break.
You've fallen asleep or even gone to Charlton as the popular
Charlton. Arthur Ellis is an interesting figure, and that was the link that took me down this little rabbit hole, listeners. Neil mentioned he was the referee for a game against Crystal Palace that we featured in our previous show. I had a quick look at his refereeing career. Neil, he was a substantial referee. He refereed in World Cup football, infamous games like the Battle of Bern in the 1954 World Cup, which was a kind of a semi-fight mixed with a game of football between I think it was Germany and Hungary, I believe. Just a short correction: the Battle of Bern was an infamous game played between Hungary and Brazil at the 1954 World Cup, played in Switzerland, not Germany, as we said in the conversation. So yeah, it was so interesting. I became drawn into it, and that's the linkage to the show listeners. But who would you think of all the people in all the world that might have been the inspiration for the concept of It's a Knockout Stroke Jeux Sans Frontieres? For any younger listeners, this was like I think we described it as like a village fete with silly games where you ran backwards and forwards in costumes, pouring water into tubs, and winners, whoever got the most water, or I don't know, games of that kind, garden fete type games. This was on television.
It was absolutely brilliant stuff. TV.
But who, given its nonsensical comic quality, who would you think would be the inspiration behind that concept, Neil?
I've got no idea. Princess Anne or somebody like that? Was it a member of the family?
No, one of the most substantial figures in European history. One general, leader of the Free French, post-war French president Charles de Gaulle.
Oh, White Flag Chaz, as he...
Bit harsh on him, but anyway, he proposed a game in the post-war world of France and Germany, of bringing youth together. The idea that the French and German youth would never fight again if they could have a kind of a common pastime which involves running around pouring buckets of water in, into receptacles. So yeah, it was based on a game show called Interville, into town, a French show, which became part of an international franchise concept called Jeux Sans Frontieres. And for anyone of a certain age, me, I'm talking about here, listeners, Jeux Sans Frontieres was one of the few chances, other than the odd late night highlights show or perhaps the odd live end of season final, of seeing Europe. I mean, we never went abroad, Neil. Our idea of a holiday was a caravan site in Kent. So the exotic locations that the international Jeux Sans Frontières would come in from was part of your exposure to a different way of life and different way of thinking. And so we'd have these international held games of silly games across Europe, often with the most beautiful backdrops of Italian towns and Belgian, Dutch medieval cities and towns, and it became huge. I found a clipping from the Scotsman, Jeux Sans Frontieres. This is dated 1967. This is how big it got, listeners. Anyone that now, any Netflix, ITV, BBC, could bring 50 million viewers to the screen would be giving everything. They'd be spending huge money. But that's how many viewers are expected to watch the final of Jeux Sans Frontieres in 1967, which is going to take place at Badenburg in Germany. Viewable on prime time, BBC One at 5 minutes past 9. Great Britain will be represented by Cheltenham. All the games, Neil, will be completely new, including one in which the women members of each team will have to unravel a rope intertwined with others. This was top viewing, listeners. For the men, there will be a long snake, in inverted commas, a long snake skin through which they have to crawl, overcoming various obstacles before they see light again. The prize for the winning team, £4,000. £4,000 to be split amongst your team. And this was huge viewing. And I used to really look forward to it. Hence my enthusiasm, which I'm sure you can pick up on this, Neil. At the height of its popularity, says Wikipedia, it was broadcast across Europe, watched by 110 million viewers in 1982, at the height of its popularity, before it would fade away.
10 million.
Over. It had. I love this description. The more familiar format, it really took off from the mid '60s onwards, when teams from Great Britain and Switzerland joined in the competition. Each heat being hosted by one of the participant broadcasters. The whole bill was stumped up by the TV company for the various nations taking part. The games began to be played in outlandish costumes, often large foam latex suits. It'd be a bit like having Zampa the lion running around with Cyril the swan. I've got to compete in funny games. Two referees became synonymous, and this might bring a few memories back. Older listeners, these were Swiss international referees Gennaro Olivieri and Guido Pancaldi, and they would always, as a kid, this always struck me, when they put the score on, they would do a European one. Have you ever seen it? It goes doesn't go like a straight line one. It would do like a one with like a curved uplift and come down. One of my educational moments, Neil. There was a darker side to this, though, listeners, because it was presented. This is where the wind suddenly goes chill at this point, because it was a fun show, and like so much of 1960s and 1970s light entertainment, Neil, there was an undercurrent of sexual crime, which was underpinned in this case by the presenter, and he was a very famous commentator, Stuart Hall, and he had this kind of silly giggle. He would roll up laughing at everything, wouldn't he? And then he became a convicted sex offender, pleading guilty to various rape convictions in the 70s, and did time inside. And I think that contrast between, how can I put it, a fun show when you're a kid that you read on the surface or watch on the surface, and you see all these silly games and it's a laugh, and you've got this commentator that is part of the entertainment. One of the happiest faces on TV I've got written here. This is from the Express and Star, Sunday Post, 1976 interview with him. And then it turns out he's what he is. so much of 1970s entertainment, Neil, falls into that category. Don't you agree? It's a really odd contrast.
It does, obviously. There was Savile around and things like that.
Savile, and he was part of it.
It kind of ruined childhood memories of certain
absolutely
things, doesn't it? But then again, I suppose if you look hard enough, you'll find something.
People find it now. It's just maybe it gets exposed quicker and faster now because of social media. I guess I don't know. But it is a strange thing. I found this interview. It's quite a long interview with Stuart Hall, which I won't dwell on too much. But there's one bit here. It's how do you spend your time? He says to the interviewer, to Stuart Hall. He says, "I collect clocks." And I misread that. I thought he said, "I collect cocks." But it's actually, "I collect clocks." And there's another one. "Do you and Eddie Waring get much fan mail?" And ominously, he says, "Yes, mostly from children." There we are. Jeux Sans Frontieres, dear listeners. I had to return back to it because it was such a big part of my childhood, and I used to really look forward to it. And as odd as it sounds, Neil, it was like I've said at the start of this little piece, it was a chance to see Europe in a way that certainly kids from my council list, they didn't often get to see. One or two in my class at school went to Spain on the holidays.
Yeah, fun.
Very few.
Fun enough, when you mentioned this earlier on, you sent me a WhatsApp, and I thought, I'll have a look and see what that translates to. Games Without Borders.
Yeah, Games Without Frontiers, yeah.
Games Without Borders, and was an inspiration for Peter Gabriel's song in 19...
It was, I think he lifted that, they took that title.
Yeah, which I didn't know. But, you learn. Every day's a learning experience.
On this show it is. I love this bit, just to close us, because I think we probably don't want to overdo it. I just had to mention it.
Probably bored everybody quite enough of.
Well, it may have done. I apologise. I mean, there's always an off switch on your car dashboard list. I know it's not the idea. I'm also at the hour points. I've set that's myself imposed new deadline. I'm going to try and keep to just over the hour now. I love this. They asked Stuart Hall, sex offender Stuart Hall, anyway. How do national characteristics come through in the way the teams go about it? He says it's very difficult to generalise before he goes on to generalise like mad. The North Germans are very different to the Southern Germans. The Bavarians are more British than the British. Those from the Ruhr are disciplined. And the Prussians are organised. The Prussians. Of the others, the Italians are more flamboyant and like to strut around and preen themselves. The Flemish Belgians think the French Belgians are stupid and vice versa. That's why they don't win much. Nice bloke.
Yeah, there was no stereotyping there. But then again, in many respects, he's right, because a lot of Germany's top generals were from Prussia.
Prussia, that's right. And if you go to Munich and you go to the Oktoberfest, you'll see a piss up like you might see in, I don't know, Ilford, Catford. Maybe you wouldn't go Plymouth. Yeah. Just like us. There we are, dear listeners. That's the show. I think we've covered quite a wide range of subject matter there. But there we are. Neil, I want to say a big thank you for joining me, mate. We'll do this again next month if you fancy it.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I know if anybody is still listening and they haven't switched off, do remember that we're trying to do these once a month, and the longer you listen, the more money's raised for the food hub.
Well, it goes to the food hub. Great cause.
And
do send us your voice notes and your emails and memories and thoughts on any of the games we've mentioned or anything else for that matter.
History related.
Good to hear from you.
History related. We don't want too many tangents, do we? Otherwise we'll never get off here, will we?
We'll just do a separate Achtung tangent show. That might be another one. No, big thank you, mate. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming on, mate. I appreciate it.
You too.
Who do you want to watch?
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.